This video was made thanks to this awesome request. Thank you for the title suggestion, and happy watching.
Before we dive into the video, let's first get to know the terrifying cosmic realm of Dead by Daylight and its mysterious ruler, the Entity. In the world of Dead by Daylight, the Entity is an ancient, godlike cosmic being that feeds on extreme human emotion, especially fear, agony, and hope. It creates an inescapable, foggy dimension where it drags victims from across different universes to participate in an endless cycle of trials. To fuel these trials, the Entity corrupts and tortures individuals into becoming its brutal killers. In this story, Deku is dragged into the fog, where his pure desire to save others is twisted through psychological torture, forcing the world's greatest hero to become the Entity's most tragic and dangerous hunter.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Curikens. If you're a fan of My Hero Academia, especially awesome fanfiction stories all about Deku, you're definitely in the right place. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your fellow anime fans, and subscribe so you never miss a new upload. Also, if you have an awesome idea or title for the next fanfiction video, drop it in the comment below. I'd love to read your suggestions. And hey, if you want to support the channel even more and keep me extra motivated to create awesome content, consider joining our channel membership. By becoming a member, you'll unlock cool perks like exclusive loyalty badges and custom stickers you can use in the comments. If you've already joined, thank you so much. Your support truly means the world to me and helps keep this channel going. Alright, let's get right into the story.
The night had already turned into chaos. Sirens echoed through the streets while distant explosions shook the buildings. Izuku Midoriya moved across the rooftops, his green hero costume covered in dust and scratches. He had been chasing a villain for nearly 20 minutes. There, the villain disappeared around a corner. Izuku jumped from one building to another, using Blackwhip to pull himself forward. "I've almost got you." The villain suddenly stopped. Izuku landed several meters behind him. "Give up." The villain slowly turned around. But he wasn't looking at Izuku. He was staring at something behind him. Izuku frowned. What? The street became unnaturally quiet. The sirens stopped. The wind stopped. Even the distant city lights seemed to disappear. A thin layer of black fog began spreading across the pavement. Izuku took a step backward. "This isn't your quirk." The villain suddenly ran. Izuku ignored him. His danger sense was screaming. "Something's wrong." The fog reached his boots. Izuku immediately activated One for All. Green lightning surrounded his body. Smash! He jumped. But the fog followed. Black tendrils suddenly emerged from the ground. Crack! Izuku's Blackwhip shot toward a nearby building. He pulled himself upward. Another tendril wrapped around his leg. What? Izuku grabbed it. The thing felt neither solid nor liquid. It moved like something alive. He tried to tear it apart. Nothing happened. More tendrils emerged. One wrapped around his arm. Another caught his waist. Izuku activated full cowling. Let go. Boom. The ground beneath him shattered. For a moment, the tendrils loosened. Izuku immediately escaped. But the fog had already surrounded the entire street. Something enormous moved inside it. Izuku couldn't see its body. Only several long, black shapes moving between the buildings. His danger sense became unbearable. "What is that?" A whisper answered him. "Izuku." He froze. The voice sounded familiar. "Who said that?" Nothing answered. Then another voice came from the fog. "Come closer." Izuku raised his fists. "Show yourself." The fog suddenly rushed toward him. Whoosh! Izuku fired Blackwhip in every direction. Smash! Boom! The attack dispersed part of the fog. For a moment, he saw something. A massive black silhouette, countless glowing eyes, long limbs. something that looked like branches or claws extending across the sky. Izuku's eyes widened. "You're not human." The creature didn't answer. One of its limbs moved. Izuku tried to dodge. Too late. The fog swallowed him. Izuku fell. There was no ground, no sky, no city, nothing. He tried to use Blackwhip. Nothing happened. Blackwhip. A thin tendril appeared from his arm before disappearing into the darkness. His body continued falling. He couldn't tell whether he had been falling for seconds or hours. Then he heard voices. Izuku. He looked around. Mom. The darkness changed. He saw his mother standing several meters away. She was crying. Izuku. Come home. He reached toward her. Mom. She disappeared. Another image appeared. His classmates stood in the hallway. Bakugo looked at him. You don't belong here. Izuku stopped. What? Todoroki turned away. Ochako walked past him. Tenya didn't even look at him. One by one, everyone disappeared. Izuku's breathing became heavier. Wait. The images vanished. He was alone again. Then a deep voice echoed through the darkness. Your hope is delicious. Izuku looked upward. Who are you? Something moved above him. I am the entity. The name echoed through the void. Izuku clenched his fists. What do you want? Your fear. Black tendrils descended. Izuku attacked immediately. Smash. Boom. The darkness shook. But the entity didn't move. Another tendril struck. Izuku was thrown backward. He tried to activate One for All again. His body responded. Green lightning appeared. I won't let you take me. He launched himself upward. Detroit smash. Boom. The attack disappeared into the darkness. Nothing happened. The entity's voice returned. You resist. Izuku landed heavily. Of course I do. Good. The fog surrounded him again. Resistance makes the trial more interesting. Izuku suddenly felt something wrap around his chest. He tried to break free. Let me go. The tendrils tightened. His vision blurred. The last thing he saw was a massive black shape opening behind him. Then everything went dark. Izuku woke on cold ground. His breathing was uneven. He pushed himself upright. There were trees around him. But they weren't normal trees. Their trunks were twisted. Their branches stretched unnaturally high. Black fog covered the forest. Far away, something screamed. Izuku immediately stood. Where am I? No answer. He looked at his hands. His costume was still there. His body was injured, but he could move. One for All was still active. Blackwhip was still available. Izuku exhaled. Good. He looked around. I need to find a way back. A distant sound interrupted him. A generator. Izuku turned toward it. Someone was there. Several people were running through the fog. A woman screamed. Run. Izuku's eyes widened. People. He immediately moved toward them. Wait. I'm here to help. The group disappeared between the trees. Izuku followed. Hey. Something suddenly appeared behind him. A black hook hanging from a wooden structure. Izuku stopped. He looked at it. His danger sense activated. A cold voice whispered beside his ear. Survivors. Izuku turned around. Nothing was there. Then the fog moved. Izuku's eyes narrowed. What is this place? The entity's voice echoed from every direction. Your new home. Izuku clenched his fists. I'm going back. The fog became thicker. We shall see. Izuku looked toward the distant survivors. He didn't know where he was. He didn't know what the entity wanted. But he knew one thing. Someone was in danger. And that was enough. Izuku sprinted into the fog. Behind him, hundreds of black tendrils slowly rose from the ground. The entity was watching. And its newest prisoner had just entered his first trial. Izuku kept running through the fog. Branches scratched against his costume as he moved between the twisted trees. The distant sound of a generator grew louder, followed by hurried footsteps. Wait. He pushed through a group of bushes. 4 people stood near a damaged generator. They immediately turned toward him. A man raised a metal pipe. "Stay back." Izuku stopped. "I'm not your enemy." A woman looked at his costume. "You're a killer." "No." Izuku raised both hands. "I'm a hero." The survivors exchanged confused looks. "Hero?" Izuku nodded. "Yes. I was brought here against my will." Before anyone could answer, the generator suddenly stopped. Click. The forest became silent. Izuku's danger sense activated. "Something's coming." A low growl echoed between the trees. The survivors froze. "Run." They scattered. Izuku turned toward the sound. Nothing. Then something moved behind him. He spun around. Still nothing. "Show yourself." The fog became thicker. A familiar voice whispered beside him. "Izuku." His eyes widened. That voice. He turned. His mother stood between the trees. "Mom." She smiled. "Come here, Izuku." He slowly approached. "How are you here?" She opened her arms. "You don't have to be afraid anymore." Izuku stopped. Something felt wrong. His mother had never spoken like that. "Where are we?" Her smile disappeared. "You know." The forest suddenly vanished. Izuku found himself standing inside U.A. The hallway was completely empty. He looked around. What happened? The school bell rang. Ring. Izuku flinched. Footsteps approached. Bakugo appeared at the end of the hallway. Behind him stood several students. Bakugo looked at Izuku with disgust. "You're still here." Izuku stared. "Bakugo, you should have left a long time ago." Another student stepped forward. "He doesn't belong here." Izuku shook his head. "That's not true." Bakugo laughed. "Then prove it." The hallway changed. Izuku suddenly stood in a classroom. His classmates were sitting at their desks. Aizawa stood at the front. "Midoriya." Izuku looked at him. "Yes, sir." "You failed." Izuku's eyes widened. "Failed what?" "Everything." One by one, the students began laughing. Izuku covered his ears. "Stop." The laughter became louder. "Stop." Bakugo walked toward him. "You were never a hero." Izuku stepped backward. "That's not true. You were never strong enough." "Stop." "You were never needed." "Stop." The classroom disappeared. Izuku fell onto his knees. He was back in the forest. His breathing was heavy. Sweat ran down his face. "That wasn't real." The entity's voice answered. "Does it matter?" Izuku looked around. "You created those images." "Yes." "Why?" "Because you fear them." Izuku clenched his fists. "You don't know me." The fog moved around him. "I know everything you have tried to forget." Izuku stood. "Then you should know I'm not going to obey you." Silence. Then the entity laughed. The sound came from every direction. "Not yet." Izuku tried to leave the area. The path changed every time he turned. One moment he was walking toward the generator. The next, he was standing in front of his old apartment. His mother's voice came from inside. "Izuku." He froze. The door opened. His mother stood there. "Come inside." Izuku stared at her. "You're not real." She smiled. "Does that matter?" Izuku's expression hardened. "Yes." He turned away. The scene disappeared. U.A. appeared again. This time, Ochako stood in front of him. She looked frightened. "Izuku, why did you do this?" He stared. "Do what?" "You hurt everyone." "No, I didn't." Todoroki appeared beside her. "You became dangerous." Tenya shook his head. "We trusted you." Izuku's heart raced. "That's not true." Bakugo stepped forward. "Everyone knows what you really are." Izuku covered his ears. "Stop." The voices grew louder. "Monster." "Failure." "Villain." "Monster." "Failure." Izuku dropped to the floor. "Stop." Green lightning suddenly erupted around his body. Boom. The illusion shattered. The classroom vanished. The hallway disappeared. The forest returned. Izuku remained on one knee, breathing heavily. Blackwhip burst from his arm without permission. The tendrils struck the ground. Crack. Izuku looked at them. Blackwhip. The black tendrils moved strangely. They seemed more aggressive than before. The entity whispered, "Your power feels your fear." Izuku grabbed his arm. "Leave it alone. Your anger." The Blackwhip tightened around his wrist. "Your despair." Izuku tried to control it. "Shut up." The tendrils suddenly pulled toward the fog. Izuku resisted. "I said shut up." He forced Blackwhip back into his body. The entity became silent. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then it spoke again. "Interesting." Far away, the survivors were still repairing the generator. One of them suddenly looked toward the forest. "Did you hear that?" The others stopped. A distant explosion echoed through the trees. Boom. The man tightened his grip on the pipe. "What was that?" Another survivor whispered. "I don't know." The fog moved. A dark silhouette appeared between the trees for only a second. Then disappeared. Izuku walked alone through the forest. His body was exhausted. His mind hurt. But he continued moving. He eventually found the generator again. The survivors immediately looked at him. The woman from earlier stepped forward. "Are you all right?" Izuku nodded. "I think so." "What happened?" Izuku looked toward the fog. "Something tried to make me believe things that never happened." The survivors became silent. "The entity?" Izuku nodded. "Yes." One of them looked frightened. "It does that." Izuku stared at him. "To everyone?" "Yes." Izuku looked down at his hands. "Then it made a mistake." The woman frowned. "What do you mean?" Izuku looked toward the unfinished generator. "If it wants me to give up, it's going to have to try harder." A sudden metallic sound echoed through the forest. Click. The generator activated. The survivors looked at it. One of them smiled. "One more." Izuku nodded. "Then let's finish it." Deep inside the fog, something watched them. The entity had failed to break Izuku. But it had learned something far more valuable. Fear wasn't enough. So the next trial would be different. Izuku stopped counting the days. There was no morning in the fog. There was no night. Only the same endless darkness, the same twisted trees, and the same voices that appeared whenever he tried to rest. Sometimes he saw his mother. Sometimes he saw All Might. Sometimes he saw his classmates. And sometimes he saw himself. But none of them were real. The entity made sure of that. Izuku sat against a dead tree, his knees pulled toward his chest. His costume was torn and covered in dirt. His hands trembled. "I want to go home." The fog answered with silence. Then a familiar voice came from behind him. "Home." Izuku slowly turned. Bakugo stood there. "You still think you have a home?" Izuku stared at him. "You're not real." Bakugo smiled. "Then why are you afraid?" Izuku looked away. "Because." His voice became quieter. "Because I don't know what's real anymore." Bakugo disappeared. Aizawa appeared next. "You failed your class." Izuku shook his head. "No. You couldn't protect anyone." "That's not true. You couldn't even protect yourself." Izuku covered his ears. "Stop." The voice continued. "You call yourself a hero." "Stop." "But look at you." Izuku's breathing became faster. "Stop." The illusion suddenly vanished. Izuku was alone again. His Blackwhip burst from his arms. Crack. The tendrils slammed into the surrounding trees. Izuku grabbed his own wrist. "Calm down." The black tendrils continued moving. "Calm down." They slowly disappeared. Izuku looked at his hands. "I'm still here," a voice whispered from the fog. "For now." Izuku looked up. "Entity." The fog moved. "You continue to resist." "Yes." "Why?" Izuku clenched his fists. "Because I'm a hero." The entity remained silent. Then the entire forest changed. Izuku suddenly stood in a city. People were screaming. Buildings were collapsing. Flames covered the streets. He saw civilians trapped beneath rubble. "Help." Izuku immediately ran toward them. Hold on. He lifted the debris using one for all. Everyone get out. The civilians escaped. Izuku smiled. You're safe. Then another explosion occurred. Boom. Izuku turned. Dozens of people were trapped again. He rushed toward them. Then another explosion. Boom. More people. Another. And another. No matter how many people he rescued, more appeared. Izuku's breathing became heavier. I can't. The entity's voice echoed. You cannot save everyone. Izuku continued moving. I can try. You will fail. I'll keep trying. The illusion became worse. Every civilian he saved disappeared. Every person he reached vanished before his eyes. Izuku screamed. Stop. The entity whispered. Then make it end. Izuku froze. What? You want to save them? The voice became softer. So save them permanently. A dark weapon appeared in Izuku's hand. He stared at it. No. They will never suffer again. Izuku dropped the weapon. No. The entity continued. You can end their fear. Izuku shook his head. That's not saving. The city vanished. Izuku fell onto the forest floor. His entire body was shaking. He pressed both hands against his head. No. The entity appeared as a massive shadow between the trees. You still refuse. Izuku looked up. I won't become your killer. The entity moved closer. You already understand what I need. I don't care. You will. The shadow disappeared. Then pain spread through Izuku's body. He cried out. Ah! Black markings began appearing across his arms. His one for all reacted violently. Green lightning mixed with dark energy. Crack! Blackwhip erupted from his back. The tendrils twisted around his body. Izuku tried to control them. Stop! They tightened. Stop! The entity's voice echoed. Your power belongs to this realm now. Izuku fought against the control. It's mine. The Blackwhip suddenly stopped. For one brief moment, Izuku regained control. He pulled the tendrils away. His breathing was heavy. Mine. The entity remained silent. Then another voice appeared. This one came from inside his mind. Don't listen to it. Izuku froze. Who are you? Another voice answered. We are still here. Izuku's eyes widened. One for all. The vestiges. He couldn't see them clearly, but he could feel them. Faint presences. Faint voices. Faint resistance. You're still here. Yes. Izuku closed his eyes. For the first time in what felt like forever, he wasn't completely alone. Then help me. The voices became clearer. Fight. Izuku stood. His legs were shaking, but he remained upright. The entity watched from the fog. You think those fragments can save you? Izuku raised his fists. I don't need them to save me. Green lightning appeared around his body. I just need them to remind me who I am. The forest shook. The entity's presence grew stronger. Black tendrils rushed toward Izuku. He activated one for all. Boom. The first tendril was destroyed. Another came from the side. Izuku dodged. Blackwhip intercepted it. Crack. The two forces collided. Izuku was thrown backward. He landed on his feet. His costume was darker than before. The green lines across it had become dull. The Blackwhip around his arms looked increasingly twisted. But his eyes remained focused. I'm Izuku Midoriya. The entity remained silent. I'm a student. Izuku raised his fists. I'm a hero. The fog began closing around him. The entity answered. Then prove it. The forest disappeared. A new trial was already waiting. Izuku didn't know it yet, but the entity had stopped trying to convince him. Now it intended to break him. And this time, it would use his own power against him. The fog became completely still. Izuku stood alone in the middle of the forest. The voices of the vestiges had disappeared. His connection to One for All felt distant. He tried to activate full cowling. Nothing happened. One for All. Silence. Izuku's eyes widened. No. He tried again. Green lightning flickered around his fingers. Then disappeared. The entity's voice echoed through the trees. You wanted to be a hero. Izuku looked around. Where are you? You wanted to save everyone. Black fog gathered behind him. You wanted to become strong. Izuku clenched his fists. I still do. Then become stronger. A massive force struck his body. Boom. Izuku was thrown across the forest. He crashed against a tree. Crack. He fell to the ground. Ah. He tried to stand. His legs shook. The fog surrounded him. Black tendrils emerged from the ground. Izuku grabbed one. I won't obey you. The tendril tightened around his arm. Another wrapped around his chest. Then another around his legs. Izuku struggled. Let me go. The entity didn't answer. The tendrils pulled him toward a massive structure hidden inside the fog. It looked like an enormous wooden altar. Dark energy flowed through it. Several hooks hung from the surrounding branches. Izuku recognized them from the trials. His expression hardened. No. The entity's voice returned. This realm has chosen you. Izuku tried to activate One for All again. Green lightning appeared. This time, it didn't disappear. Instead, black energy immediately mixed with it. Izuku screamed. Ah! The two energies collided inside his body. His costume began changing. The bright green fabric became dark and faded. Parts of the costume tore apart. The familiar red and white details disappeared beneath blackened material. His mask became darker. His gloves became rough and damaged. Even the protective armor around his legs changed. Izuku stared at himself. What? Black energy covered his arms. His hair became messier. His eyes glowed faintly through the darkness. The entity whispered, your hero costume is no longer necessary. Izuku looked at the transformed suit. I won't wear this. The entity answered. You already are. Something moved beneath Izuku's skin. He grabbed his arm. Blackwhip. A single tendril emerged. But it was different. The normally dark energy had become almost black-red. A wet crackling sound came from it. Izuku stared. What happened to you? The tendril moved without his command. It struck a nearby tree. Crack. The trunk split. Izuku immediately pulled it back. Stop. The tendril wrapped around his arm. Izuku tried to force it away. It resisted. I control you. The entity's voice echoed. No. Izuku pulled harder. I control my quirk. The Blackwhip suddenly moved toward the entity's fog. Izuku realized what was happening. It wasn't responding to him. It was responding to the entity. No. He grabbed it with his other hand. You're not taking this too. The tendril tightened around his wrist. Izuku's eyes widened. Then the vestiges appeared again. Faintly. One by one. Izuku. He looked around. I can hear you. Don't let it take control. I'm trying. Fight it. Izuku pulled against the Blackwhip. The corrupted energy shook violently. Crack. A pulse of green lightning spread across his arm. The black color receded for a moment. Izuku gasped. Yes. He pulled again. Come back. The tendril trembled. Then suddenly went still. Izuku slowly released it. The corrupted Blackwhip remained wrapped around his arm. But this time, it followed his movement. Izuku stared at it. You're still mine. The entity remained silent. For several seconds. Then it laughed. Partially. A strange sensation spread through Izuku's body. His muscles became lighter. Faster. Stronger. One for All returned. But it felt different. Far more powerful. Green lightning mixed with black energy around his body. Izuku clenched his fist. What did you do? The entity answered. I removed your limits. Izuku looked down. His breathing became steady. The power was enormous. But something else was inside it. A command. A pressure. A voice that wasn't his. Hunt. Izuku froze. The command appeared inside his mind. Hunt. He shook his head. No. Hunt. I said no. His body suddenly moved forward. Izuku's eyes widened. Stop. His legs carried him through the forest. He tried to stop himself. Nothing happened. The corrupted Blackwhip shot forward. Whoosh. It wrapped around a distant tree. His body accelerated. Izuku was pulled through the air. Stop. He tried to resist. His body ignored him. He landed in front of a wooden structure. 4 survivors were nearby. They froze. One of them whispered, "The killer." Izuku stared at them. His breathing stopped. No. One survivor turned and ran. Run. The others followed. Izuku's body moved again. He chased them. Wait. His voice came out weak. I'm not. His Blackwhip shot forward. Crack. It struck the ground in front of the survivors. They screamed. Izuku stopped. His hands trembled. I'm not your killer. The entity's voice echoed inside his head. Hunt. Izuku closed his eyes. No. Hunt. His body stepped forward. No. Green and black lightning exploded around him. Boom. The survivors ran deeper into the fog. Izuku stood motionless. He could feel the entity controlling his muscles. But his mind remained his own. Barely. I won't kill them. The entity answered. You will. Izuku raised his head. His eyes were filled with anger. Then you'll have to control every part of me. The entity became silent. Izuku tightened his fist. Because as long as I can still think. The corrupted Blackwhip moved around him. I'm still fighting you. The fog thickened. A new notification appeared inside his mind. Killer designation pending. Name. Unknown. Power. Corrupted Blackwhip. Mobility. Extreme. Status. Unstable. Izuku stared at the words. Then another message appeared. Trial begins soon. He looked toward the direction where the survivors had escaped. His body began moving. His mind screamed for him to stop. But his legs continued forward. The entity had created its new killer. And the first hunt was about to begin. The fog swallowed Izuku completely. One moment, he had been standing beneath the twisted trees. The next, he was somewhere else. He opened his eyes. A ruined farm surrounded him. Broken fences stretched across the fields. An old barn stood in the distance, its wooden walls covered in moss. Several generators were scattered throughout the area. Izuku slowly stood. His corrupted costume felt heavier than before. Blackwhip moved around his arms like living shadows. He tried to pull it back. It obeyed. Barely. Where am I? A familiar whisper answered. Your first trial. Izuku looked around. Nothing. Then a notification appeared in his mind. Trial begins. Objective. Hunt the survivors. Survivors remaining. 4. Izuku's eyes widened. No. Eliminate the survivors. I said no. His body suddenly moved. His legs accelerated. Stop. He couldn't. Green lightning and black energy exploded around him. Boom. Izuku shot across the field. 4 survivors were running through the tall grass. One of them looked behind. He's coming. Another survivor shouted. How fast is he? The answer came from behind them. Crack. Blackwhip wrapped around a tree. Izuku swung through the air. He landed several meters away. The survivors stopped. Izuku stared at them. They looked terrified. He lowered his hands. Run. The survivors looked confused. What? Run. Izuku forced the words out. I don't want to hurt you. One survivor slowly backed away. Then the entity's command entered his mind. Hunt. Izuku's eyes widened. His body moved. No. Blackwhip shot forward. Whoosh. The survivors scattered. Izuku chased them. One survivor reached the barn. He slammed the door behind him. He's coming. Another survivor hid behind a wooden wall. We need to repair the generator. The first survivor nodded. Then let's do it. They moved toward the generator. Izuku appeared outside. His danger sense activated. He could hear their movements. His corrupted Blackwhip moved toward the wall. Izuku grabbed it. Don't. The tendril struggled. I said don't. The entity's voice echoed. Destroy them. Izuku's hand shook. No. The Blackwhip suddenly forced itself forward. Crack. The wall broke. The survivors screamed. Izuku saw them. One of them stumbled backward. Izuku froze. He could have attacked. Instead, he stepped aside. Run. The survivor stared at him. Why? Izuku couldn't answer. The entity tightened its control. His body moved again. No. He tried to stop himself. His Blackwhip shot forward. It wrapped around the survivor. Izuku's eyes widened. Let go. The tendril tightened. The survivor screamed. Izuku grabbed the Blackwhip. Let them go. Green lightning surged through his arm. Crack. The tendril released the survivor. The survivor ran. Izuku dropped to one knee. His breathing became heavy. I can still control it. The entity answered. For now. The trial continued. The survivors repaired generators and ran through the fields. Izuku tracked them using his enhanced senses. He could feel their movements, their footsteps, their fear, their locations. But each time he caught one, he deliberately missed. A Blackwhip strike slammed into the ground beside a survivor. Boom. Another attack struck a tree instead of its target. Crack. The survivors began noticing. He's not trying to hit us. What? Look. Izuku appeared between the trees. He stared at them. Then he turned away. The survivor understood. Run. They escaped. Izuku remained still. His body trembled. I'm not your killer. The entity's voice became colder. You will be. The final generator activated. Click. The entire area changed. Two large exit gates appeared at opposite ends of the map. The survivors ran toward one. Izuku watched from a distance. He could end the trial. He could stop them. But he didn't. One survivor reached the gate. The mechanism began opening. Izuku's body suddenly moved. No. He rushed forward. The survivor turned. Izuku's Blackwhip launched. The survivor ducked. The tendril struck the gate. Crack. The metal shook. The survivor screamed. Open it. The gate continued rising. Izuku's body moved again. He fought against it with everything he had. Green lightning covered his entire body. Stay back. The survivor froze. Izuku turned his own body away from them. Get out. The survivor understood. The gate opened. The survivor escaped into the fog. Survivor escaped. Survivors remaining. 3. Izuku dropped to his knees. The entity was silent. Then the ground beneath him cracked. Black roots emerged. They wrapped around his arms. No. The entity appeared in the fog. You were instructed to hunt. Izuku looked up. I hunted. You failed. I chose. The entity's presence became enormous. Izuku's body was pulled backward. Ah. The black roots tightened. The entity whispered. Next trial. The farm disappeared. Izuku was thrown into another realm. He landed on cold stone. The environment was different. A ruined industrial complex stretched before him. 3 survivors were already running. Izuku slowly stood. His costume was darker. His eyes glowed beneath the shadow of his hood. Blackwhip moved around his arms. Another notification appeared. Trial reset. Survivors remaining. 4. Izuku stared at the message. 4. He looked around. 4 survivors stood in the distance. The entity had restored the trial. Everything he had done meant nothing. Izuku's hands trembled. You can't make me do this. The fog answered. You will learn. The survivors began running. Izuku remained motionless for several seconds. Then his body disappeared in a burst of green and black lightning. Boom. The hunt began again. But deep inside the killer's mind, a small part of Izuku remained awake. Watching, waiting, and refusing to disappear. The fog returned. Izuku stood in the middle of another abandoned realm, surrounded by broken buildings and twisted trees. The trial had already begun, but he didn't move. 4 survivors were somewhere nearby. He could hear them. Footsteps. Breathing. The sound of a generator being repaired. His corrupted Blackwhip slowly moved around his arms. Hunt. The command appeared inside his mind. Izuku closed his eyes. No. Hunt. I heard you. His body suddenly moved. Boom. Izuku launched himself across the ruined street. Blackwhip wrapped around a building. He swung around the corner and landed near a generator. 3 survivors ran away. Izuku immediately chased them. Keep running. 1 survivor looked back. The killer was coming. Green lightning mixed with dark energy as Izuku accelerated. The survivor stumbled. Blackwhip shot forward. Whoosh. Izuku suddenly stopped it. The tendril struck the ground instead. Crack. The survivor escaped. Izuku remained frozen. I did it again. The entity's voice echoed. You hesitate. Izuku looked toward the fog. I won't kill them. You will. No. The entity increased its control. Izuku's body suddenly moved. His legs accelerated. His Blackwhip attacked without his command. Stop. The tendril caught a survivor. Izuku's eyes widened. Let go. He grabbed it with both hands. The survivor struggled. Izuku pulled harder. Let them go. Green lightning erupted from his body. Boom. The Blackwhip released the survivor. The survivor ran. Izuku dropped to one knee. Then he heard something. A voice. Faint. Inside his mind. Young man. Izuku froze. Who are you? Another voice answered. We have been watching. Izuku's eyes widened. One for all. The vestiges appeared around him. Faint silhouettes inside the fog of his mind. The first was difficult to see. Another stood beside him. Then another. Izuku stared at them. I thought you were gone. We were never gone. Izuku's breathing became shaky. Then help me. One of the vestiges stepped forward. You must remember who you are. Izuku looked down. I know who I am. Then why are you letting it control you? Izuku didn't answer. The entity suddenly appeared inside his mind. They are only echoes. The vestiges turned toward it. The entity's presence filled the darkness. They cannot save you. Izuku clenched his fists. Maybe not. Green lightning appeared around him. But they can help me fight. The entity attacked his mind. Darkness crashed over the vestiges. Izuku was thrown backward. Stay back. One of the vestiges raised an arm. A wave of energy pushed the darkness away. Izuku stood. What's happening? Your quirk is resisting the entity. Then I'll use it. Izuku focused. One for all surged through his body. Green lightning spread across his corrupted costume. The dark energy covering his Blackwhip began to crack. Crack. Small fragments of corruption broke away. Izuku stared. It's working. The entity reacted immediately. No. The fog around him became violent. Black tendrils rushed toward Izuku. He raised his arm. Blackwhip collided with them. Crack. The impact shook the entire realm. Izuku pushed forward. You don't own me. The entity's tendrils tightened. You belong to this realm. Izuku gritted his teeth. I don't. Boom. One for all exploded around his body. The tendrils were pushed away. For a moment, the fog cleared. Izuku could see the entire realm. 4 survivors. 3 generators. 2 exit gates. And countless hooks scattered throughout the map. He stared. I can see everything. One of the vestiges spoke. Your connection to One for All has changed. Izuku nodded. It's helping me track them. Then use it. Izuku looked toward the survivors. He could sense their locations. But he didn't attack. Instead, he moved toward the nearest generator. The survivors were repairing it. One of them suddenly looked behind. He's here. Everyone froze. Izuku appeared between the trees. His corrupted costume made him look terrifying. Blackwhip moved around his body. The survivors prepared to run. Izuku raised his hand. Don't. They stopped. He pointed toward the opposite side of the realm. There's a killer coming. The survivors stared. What? Izuku turned. A distant roar echoed through the fog. Roar. Another killer was somewhere nearby. Izuku looked back at them. Finish the generator. One survivor slowly nodded. Izuku disappeared into the fog. He didn't attack them. He protected them instead. Deep inside the entity's realm, something noticed. The entity watched through the fog. Its newest killer had begun resisting. And worse, he had learned how to use the power it gave him against it. The entity's voice echoed. Then the leash must become stronger. Izuku suddenly stopped. A sharp pain appeared inside his chest. He dropped to one knee. Ah! Black markings spread across his body again. The vestiges shouted, "Izuku!" He struggled to breathe. The entity whispered directly into his mind. "You will obey." Izuku raised his head. His eyes glowed green through the darkness. "No." The entity tightened its grip. Izuku's body began shaking. But he remained standing. "I'm still here." The vestiges gathered behind him. And for the first time since entering the fog, Izuku wasn't fighting alone. Izuku woke on cold stone. For several seconds, he didn't move. The fog surrounded him. His corrupted costume was still wrapped around his body, and Blackwhip slowly moved across the ground beside him. He tried to stand. Pain immediately spread through his chest. Ah! Izuku grabbed his shirt. The entity's voice appeared inside his mind. "You resisted." Izuku looked around. "And I'll keep resisting. Then you require a stronger leash." The ground beneath him cracked. Crack. Black roots emerged from the fog. Izuku immediately jumped backward. Not again. The roots chased him. He activated One for All. Green lightning flashed around his body. Boom. He blasted himself into the air. Blackwhip wrapped around a nearby structure. He swung away. More roots appeared. They followed him through the air. Izuku released Blackwhip and landed on the roof of an abandoned building. "What do you want?" The entity's voice filled the realm. "Obedience." Izuku clenched his fists. "You won't get it." The roots suddenly wrapped around his legs. Izuku looked down. No. They pulled him from the roof. He crashed onto the ground. Boom. The impact knocked the air from his lungs. Before he could stand, several black tendrils wrapped around his arms. Izuku struggled. "Let me go." The entity appeared above him as a massive shadow. "Every trial will continue until you obey." Izuku glared upward. "Then you'll be waiting forever." The entity's shadow moved closer. "We shall see." The tendrils tightened. Izuku's body became difficult to move. His corrupted Blackwhip reacted violently, trying to break the restraints. Crack. One tendril snapped. Another immediately replaced it. Izuku gritted his teeth. "Come on." Green lightning surrounded his body. One for All surged through his muscles. The restraints began breaking. Crack. 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 Izuku pushed himself upward. "I won't." Another tendril wrapped around his chest. "Serve you." The entity increased its pressure. Izuku screamed. Ah! The vestiges appeared inside his mind. Izuku. He could barely see them. "We're here." Izuku breathed heavily. "I can't move." "Then don't fight with your body." Izuku looked at them. "What? Fight with your will." The entity's voice interrupted. "Your will is irrelevant." Izuku closed his eyes. The voices became clearer. He remembered his mother, All Might, his classmates. The first time he had heard that he could become a hero. He remembered the first time One for All had answered him. Then he remembered why he had started. Izuku opened his eyes. Green lightning exploded around him. Boom. The restraints shattered. The entity's shadow recoiled. Impossible. Izuku stood. His breathing was heavy, but his eyes were steady. "You can control my body." Blackwhip moved around his arms. "But you can't control what I choose." The entity became silent. Then the fog changed. A new trial appeared around Izuku. The ruins disappeared. A dark forest formed. 4 survivors appeared in the distance. A generator stood between them. Izuku immediately understood. Another trial. Trial begins. Survivors. 4. Objective. Sacrifice survivors. Izuku stared at the notification. No. Objective confirmed. I said no. His body suddenly moved. He was forced forward. Stop. His feet accelerated. Blackwhip shot toward the nearest survivor. Whoosh. The survivor screamed. Izuku twisted his arm. The tendril missed and struck a tree. Crack. The survivor escaped. Izuku continued running. His body was fighting his mind. Don't. Another tendril attacked. Izuku redirected it. Boom. The ground exploded beside the survivor. Run. The survivor didn't understand. Izuku shouted again. Run. The survivor ran deeper into the forest. The entity became furious. Obey. Izuku gritted his teeth. No. His body accelerated again. He chased the survivor. The survivor looked behind. The corrupted killer was closing in. But instead of attacking, Izuku slowed down. The survivor reached the generator. Izuku turned away. Repair it. The survivor stared. Izuku pointed at the machine. Quickly. The survivor began repairing. Izuku stood nearby. He watched the fog. Something else was moving. Another killer. Izuku's danger sense activated. Someone is coming. The survivor looked frightened. Izuku raised Blackwhip. Stay behind me. A figure emerged from the fog. Izuku recognized the shape immediately. Another killer. It approached the generator. Izuku stepped forward. The entity's command appeared. Attack. Izuku raised his fist. Then lowered it. No. The other killer attacked. Izuku blocked. Boom. The impact sent him backward. He landed on his feet. The survivor continued repairing the generator. Izuku attacked the other killer. Blackwhip struck the ground. Crack. The enemy dodged. Izuku accelerated. Boom. He slammed into the killer. The two crashed through a wooden wall. The survivor finished the generator. Click. Izuku heard it. Good. The survivor ran toward the exit. The other killer tried to pursue. Izuku blocked the path. You're not getting past me. The killer attacked again. Izuku parried. Crack. Blackwhip wrapped around the killer's arm. Izuku pulled. The enemy fell. The survivor escaped into the fog. Survivor escaped. The entity became silent. Izuku looked toward the exit. One more. The fog suddenly became darker. The entity had lost control of the trial. Black roots rose everywhere. They surrounded Izuku. The entity's voice echoed. You protect them. Izuku stood ready. Yes. You were created to hunt. I'm still a hero. The entity's shadow covered the entire forest. Then I will make you remember what happens when heroes fail. Izuku's expression changed. He knew exactly what the entity was going to do. More illusions. More memories. More pain. But this time, the vestiges stood beside him. Izuku raised his fists. Try. The fog swallowed the forest. And the entity began preparing something far worse than another illusion. The fog became thicker. Izuku stood in the middle of the forest, surrounded by twisted trees and black roots. The survivors had escaped. The trial should have ended. Instead, the entity had changed the rules. Special encounter initiated. Killer presence detected. Izuku's danger sense activated. He turned toward the trees. Something was coming. Slow footsteps echoed through the fog. Step, step, step. Izuku raised his Blackwhip. Who's there? A tall figure emerged from the darkness. She carried a large hatchet in one hand. Izuku immediately recognized her. Another killer. The huntress stopped several meters away. She stared at him through her mask. For several seconds, neither moved. Then she tilted her head. Izuku noticed something strange. She wasn't attacking. Instead, she seemed curious. The huntress slowly raised her hatchet. Izuku prepared himself. You want to fight? She suddenly threw it. Whoosh. Izuku dodged. The hatchet struck a tree. Crack. Izuku launched forward. Boom. His fist struck the ground in front of her. The huntress jumped backward. She retrieved her weapon. Izuku's Blackwhip moved around him. I don't want to fight you. The huntress stared. Then she threw another hatchet. Izuku blocked it with Blackwhip. Crash. The impact pushed him backward. He immediately released the weapon. Stop. The huntress charged. Izuku raised his arm. Blackwhip wrapped around her weapon. The two pulled against each other. Neither moved. Then the huntress suddenly stopped. She looked at his corrupted Blackwhip. Izuku noticed her expression. You've seen this before. She lowered her weapon. Izuku slowly relaxed. The huntress pointed toward his chest. Then toward the fog. Izuku understood. The entity. She nodded. Izuku looked at the ground. It changed me. The huntress remained silent. Then she pointed toward him again. Izuku frowned. What? She pointed at his heart. Then shook her head. Izuku stared. You think I'm still resisting? The huntress nodded. Izuku gave a tired smile. I am. A new sound came from the forest. Metal scraping against wood. The huntress immediately turned. Izuku's danger sense activated. Another figure appeared. This one carried a massive trap. The entity had brought another killer. The trapper stopped when he saw Izuku. He looked at the huntress. Then at Izuku. The trapper raised his weapon. Izuku stepped backward. Apparently everyone wants to test me. The huntress suddenly moved beside him. Izuku looked at her. You're helping me. She didn't answer. The trapper charged. Boom. Izuku and the huntress moved simultaneously. Izuku used Blackwhip to pull himself upward. The huntress threw a hatchet. Whoosh. The trapper blocked it. Izuku dropped behind him. Blackwhip wrapped around the trapper's arm. The huntress struck his weapon away. Crash. The trapper stumbled. Izuku pulled him backward. Enough. The trapper broke free and disappeared into the fog. The huntress lowered her weapon. Izuku looked at her. Why did you help me? She pointed toward the fog. Then toward Izuku. Izuku slowly understood. Because you know what it does. She nodded. The entity's voice suddenly filled the forest. Traitors. The huntress looked upward. Izuku clenched his fists. It hurt us. The forest changed. The ground became covered with black roots. The fog turned red. Izuku immediately recognized the feeling. It's angry. The huntress stepped back. The entity's voice echoed. You were given purpose. Izuku raised his fists. I didn't ask for it. You were given power. You corrupted it. The entity became silent. Then a massive tendril emerged from the sky. Boom. The huntress was thrown aside. Izuku grabbed her with Blackwhip. Hold on. He pulled her away from another attack. Crack. The ground shattered. The huntress landed safely. She looked at Izuku. Then she pointed toward the forest. Several more silhouettes appeared. Killers. Izuku's eyes widened. It brought all of them. The fog answered. You wanted freedom. Izuku raised his fists. Yes. Then fight for it. The killers charged. Izuku moved. Boom. He accelerated through the forest. Blackwhip caught one attacker and threw them into a tree. Crash. Another approached from the side. Izuku blocked. Crack. The impact shook his arm. The huntress attacked from behind. Whoosh. Her hatchet forced the enemy backward. Izuku followed with a powerful kick. Boom. Another killer fell. But more continued appearing. The entity wasn't trying to win the fight. It was testing him. Izuku realized it. You're trying to see how far I'll go. The fog remained silent. Izuku looked at the huntress. We don't need to kill them. She nodded. Together, they began forcing the other killers away instead. Izuku used Blackwhip to restrain weapons. The huntress used her hatchets to control their movement. They didn't finish anyone. They simply survived. Eventually, the remaining killers disappeared into the fog. Silence returned. The huntress approached Izuku. She pointed at his corrupted costume. Then she pointed toward the distant forest. Izuku looked at her. "You think I can escape?" She nodded. Izuku looked toward the fog. "I don't know." The huntress placed her hatchet against the ground. Then she pointed toward his chest again. Izuku smiled faintly. "You think there's still a hero inside me?" She nodded. For the first time, Izuku felt something he hadn't felt since arriving in the realm. Someone else believed it too. The entity suddenly appeared in his mind. Special trial concluded. Killer performance. Incomplete. Corruption level. Unstable. Izuku stared at the notification. Unstable. His Blackwhip moved. The dark energy covering it flickered. For a brief moment, the corruption disappeared. Green energy remained. Izuku's eyes widened. "It's weakening." The entity immediately reacted. "Warning. Unauthorized resistance detected." Izuku smiled. "Good." The huntress looked at him. Izuku raised his fist. "Then I'll keep resisting." The fog closed around them. Far away, a new trial began forming. And this time, the entity had realized something important. It hadn't created a perfect killer. It had created a prisoner who was learning how to fight back. The fog was unusually quiet. Izuku stood beside a broken generator, his corrupted costume covered in dirt. Blackwhip moved slowly around his arms, while faint green lightning flickered beneath the dark energy. He had just finished another trial. 4 survivors had escaped. The entity wasn't pleased. Trial complete. Killer performance. Unacceptable. Izuku stared at the notification. Good. The fog suddenly became cold. Izuku's danger sense activated. He turned toward the trees. Someone's here. Footsteps echoed through the darkness. One. Then another. Then several more. Izuku tightened his fists. The first figure emerged from the fog. Izuku froze. Green hair. Uniform. His eyes widened. No. Another figure appeared. Then another. Then another. Izuku couldn't move. This isn't real. Tenya Iida stepped into the clearing. Behind him were Ochako, Todoroki, Hiroshima, Mina, Denki, Momo, Tsuyu, and the rest of Class 1A. Izuku's breathing stopped. Everyone. Ochako stared at him. Her face slowly changed from confusion to horror. Midoriya. Izuku looked away. "You shouldn't be here." Bakugo stepped forward. His fists were already smoking. Deku. Izuku's body stiffened. That voice. He hadn't heard it in what felt like an eternity. Bakugo. Bakugo stared at his corrupted costume. Then at the Blackwhip wrapped around his arms. "What the hell happened to you?" Izuku couldn't answer. A notification appeared in his vision. New trial. Survivors. Class 1A. Killer. Izuku Midoriya. Izuku's eyes widened. No. The entity's voice whispered inside his mind. Hunt. Izuku shook his head. Not them. Hunt. No. His body suddenly moved. Boom. Izuku disappeared into the fog. Bakugo barely avoided the first Blackwhip strike. Crack. The tendril smashed into the ground. Deku. Izuku landed several meters away. He was shaking. Run. Bakugo stared. What? Run. Izuku's voice cracked. Get away from me. Todoroki looked at the others. He's fighting it. Aizawa wasn't there. All Might wasn't there. Only Class 1A. And their former classmate stood before them as the entity's killer. The entity forced Izuku forward. His body accelerated. Blackwhip launched toward Kirishima, hardening. Crack. The tendril wrapped around Kirishima's arm. Izuku immediately pulled it away. Run. Kirishima stared at him. Midoriya. Run. Kirishima escaped. The entity tightened its control. Pain shot through Izuku's body. Ah. He dropped to one knee. Ochako ran toward him. Midoriya. Izuku looked up. Don't come closer. Ochako stopped. Her eyes filled with tears. It's really you. Izuku looked away. Not anymore. Yes, you are. The entity suddenly forced him to stand. Hunt. Izuku's Blackwhip erupted. Ochako jumped backward. Todoroki created an ice wall. Crack. The Blackwhip destroyed it. Everyone move. Iida shouted. The class scattered. Izuku watched them run. His eyes trembled. Good. He whispered. Keep running. The survivors reached a ruined building. Momo created equipment. We need to repair the generators. Iida nodded. And we need to understand what happened to Midoriya. Bakugo slammed his fist against the wall. We know what happened. Everyone looked at him. He's being controlled. Todoroki nodded. I saw it too. Ochako looked toward the fog. Then we have to save him. Bakugo's expression hardened. Of course. Izuku stood alone outside. The entity whispered. They will abandon you. Izuku shook his head. No. They fear you. They're afraid because you made me attack them. They will leave you. Izuku closed his eyes. No. The fog became thicker. Then prove it. Izuku suddenly heard footsteps. Bakugo. Izuku opened his eyes. Bakugo. Bakugo stood across the clearing. His palms sparked. I'm not leaving you here. Izuku's expression changed. You need to leave. Shut up. Bakugo. I said shut up. Bakugo stepped forward. Whatever this place did to you, we'll fix it. Izuku's eyes became wet. You can't. Watch me. The entity suddenly forced Izuku's body forward. Boom. He accelerated. Bakugo blasted himself sideways. Too slow. Deku. Izuku's Blackwhip chased him. Bakugo dodged. Crack. Another tendril. Boom. Another explosion. The two moved through the ruined streets. Izuku could easily catch him. But every attack missed. Deliberately. Bakugo noticed. You're holding back. Izuku didn't answer. I know you are. Bakugo fired another explosion. Izuku blocked it. Why? Izuku's voice trembled. Because you're my friend. Bakugo froze for half a second. The entity's control suddenly tightened. Izuku screamed. Ah! Blackwhip erupted violently. Bakugo jumped away. Deku. Izuku grabbed his own arm. Run. Bakugo refused. No. Run. No. Izuku's eyes widened. Bakugo stood his ground. You're not a killer. Izuku stared at him. I don't know what I am anymore. Bakugo's expression softened slightly. Then remember. Izuku's breathing stopped. Remember who you were. The fog around them suddenly became violent. The entity had heard everything. Target emotional resistance detected. Black roots emerged from the ground. Bakugo prepared to fight. Izuku looked at him. Bakugo. What? Izuku clenched his fists. If I lose control. He looked toward his own Blackwhip. Don't let me hurt them. Bakugo nodded. Fine. Izuku looked at him one last time. Thank you. Then the entity took control again. Izuku's eyes darkened. Blackwhip exploded outward. Boom. Bakugo raised his arms. Come on. Deku. The trial continued. But this time, Class 1A wasn't fighting a monster. They were fighting to bring their friend back. The trial continued beneath the endless fog. Generators hummed in the distance. Broken buildings surrounded the area, their walls covered in vines and black roots. Class 1A had split into small groups, trying to repair the generators while avoiding Izuku. Bakugo remained alone. He stood in the middle of a ruined street, watching the fog. Come on, Deku. Nothing happened. Then a faint green glow appeared. Izuku emerged from the darkness. His corrupted costume was almost completely black. The edges of his hood moved with the wind, while corrupted Blackwhip crawled around his arms like living shadows. Bakugo clenched his fists. There you are. Izuku stopped. Bakugo. His voice was barely audible. You shouldn't have stayed. I told you already. Bakugo raised his hands. I'm not leaving. Izuku's eyes narrowed. You don't understand. Then explain it. I can't. Why? Izuku looked down. Because something is controlling me. Bakugo stared at him. Then fight it. Izuku's body suddenly jerked. His head snapped upward. The entity's command appeared in his mind. Hunt. Izuku grabbed his own arm. No. Hunt. No. Bakugo watched him struggle. Deku. Izuku's Blackwhip suddenly exploded outward. Whoosh. Bakugo jumped backward. Crack. The tendril smashed through the wall beside him. Deku. Izuku tried to stop himself. Run. Bakugo fired an explosion. Boom. Izuku dodged. The explosion illuminated his face. For a moment, Bakugo saw the old Izuku. Frightened. Confused. But still fighting. I know you're in there. Izuku froze. Bakugo shouted again. You hear me? Izuku's hand trembled. Yes. Then listen. The entity tightened its control. Izuku screamed. Ah! Blackwhip spread across the ground. Bakugo jumped onto a broken wall. You always complained about analyzing everyone. He grinned despite the situation. So analyze me. Izuku looked up. What? You know how I fight. Bakugo fired another explosion. Boom. Izuku dodged automatically. Another explosion. Boom. Izuku moved again. Bakugo kept attacking, forcing Izuku to react. Izuku's eyes followed every movement. Left. He whispered. Hi. Bakugo attacked. Izuku dodged. Right. Another explosion. Izuku blocked. Bakugo shouted. That's it. Izuku suddenly realized what was happening. You're making me think. Finally. Bakugo landed several meters away. You're still you. Izuku's breathing slowed. The entity's command appeared again. Hunt. Izuku stared at Bakugo. I won't. Hunt. I won't. His Blackwhip began shaking. Bakugo stepped closer. Say it louder. Izuku clenched his fists. I won't. Boom. Green lightning erupted around him. The corrupted Blackwhip recoiled. The fog shook. The entity's voice became louder. Obey. Izuku screamed. No. The entire street exploded with energy. Inside Izuku's mind, the vestiges appeared. The darkness around them was breaking apart. One for all pulsed with green light. Izuku. He looked at them. I can feel it. What? The entity. The vestiges looked toward the darkness. It's connected to your quirk. Izuku's eyes widened. Then I can break the connection. Perhaps. The entity suddenly appeared behind them. You cannot escape me. Izuku turned. Maybe not. Green lightning surrounded his body. But I can make you regret taking me. The entity attacked. Black tendrils filled the mental space. The vestiges moved beside Izuku. One for all surged. Boom. The darkness was pushed back. The entity recoiled. You are mine. Izuku raised his fist. No. He struck the darkness. Crack. The mental world shattered. Izuku opened his eyes. He was back in the trial. Bakugo stood several meters away. The corrupted Blackwhip was still wrapped around Izuku's arms. But it had stopped moving. Bakugo lowered his hands. Deku. Izuku looked at him. I'm here. Bakugo exhaled. Finally. Izuku almost smiled. Then the fog suddenly became darker. A massive presence appeared above them. The entity had manifested directly into the trial. The survivors stopped moving. The generators stopped. Even the other killers vanished. Izuku looked upward. You. The entity spoke. You have become troublesome. Bakugo stepped beside Izuku. What is that thing? Izuku stared at the enormous shadow. The reason we're trapped here. Bakugo cracked his knuckles. Then let's beat it. Izuku looked at him. We can't. Why? It's too powerful. Bakugo grinned. Since when has that stopped us? Izuku stared at him for a moment. Then he smiled faintly. You're right. The entity's tendrils descended. Boom. Izuku and Bakugo jumped in opposite directions. Class 1A regrouped behind them. Todoroki raised an ice wall. Iida prepared to run. Ochako looked at Izuku. Midoriya. He turned. Yes. We're taking you home. Izuku looked at all of them. For the first time since entering the fog, he didn't feel like a prisoner standing alone. He raised his corrupted Blackwhip. Green lightning flickered through the dark tendrils. Then let's get out of here. The entity roared. Roar. The trial began collapsing around them. And for the first time, killer and survivors stood on the same side. The trial was collapsing. The sky above the forest twisted into a massive black vortex. Trees bent toward the center while thick roots tore through the ground. Crack. Class 1A struggled to stay together. Everyone, stay close, Iida shouted. Todoroki raised a wall of ice around the group. It's getting worse. Bakugo looked toward Izuku. Deku. Izuku was standing several meters away. His body was trembling. Blackwhip covered his arms, but the dark corruption was beginning to break apart. Green lightning flickered through the tendrils. I can feel it. Bakugo frowned. Feel what? The entity. Izuku grabbed his chest. It's trying to pull me back. A black mark appeared across his neck. He dropped to one knee. Midoriya. Ochako shouted. Bakugo started running toward him. Stay back. Izuku raised his hand. It's dangerous. Bakugo stopped. Then fight it. Izuku clenched his teeth. I'm trying. The fog suddenly swallowed him. Izuku opened his eyes. He was standing in complete darkness. There was no forest, no Class 1A, no generators, only him and the entity. The enormous shadow towered above him. You have remembered too much. Izuku looked up. I remember everything. The entity remained silent. Izuku's memories began appearing around him. His childhood, his mother, the doctor telling him he was quirkless. Bakugo laughing. The first time he met All Might. The day he inherited One for All. His first day at UA. His classmates. Every memory appeared clearly. The entity tried to distort them. Bakugo became a monster. His classmates turned against him. All Might walked away. Izuku shook his head. Those aren't real. The illusions changed again. His mother cried. You failed everyone. Izuku closed his eyes. No. The entity whispered. You were never a hero. Izuku opened his eyes. That's wrong. Green lightning appeared around him. I became a hero because I wanted to save people. The entity attacked. Darkness rushed toward him. Izuku raised his arm. Blackwhip erupted. But this time, the tendrils weren't completely dark. Green energy flowed through them. Crack. The corruption split apart. Izuku stared. I can control it. The entity recoiled. Impossible. Izuku pulled the corrupted energy away from his arm. This isn't your power. He clenched his fist. It's mine. The darkness shattered. Izuku returned to the forest. Bakugo caught him before he fell. Deku. Izuku breathed heavily. I'm okay. Bakugo looked at his Blackwhip. The dark color was fading. Green energy now moved through it. What did you do? Izuku looked at his hand. I remembered. Todoroki approached. Remembered what? Izuku looked at his classmates. Who I was. Ochako smiled. Then you're really back. Izuku nodded. Not completely. He looked toward the sky. The entity was still there. But enough. The entity's voice echoed across the realm. You cannot escape. Izuku stepped forward. Maybe. His Blackwhip stretched across the ground. But I'm not going to let you control me anymore. The entity attacked. Hundreds of black tendrils descended from the sky. Move. Iida shouted. Class 1A scattered. Todoroki created a massive ice barrier. Crack. The tendrils broke through. Bakugo blasted several away. Boom. Hiroshima hardened his body and shielded Mina. Ochako floated a section of debris and sent it crashing into the incoming roots. Izuku watched everything. His eyes moved rapidly. The entity isn't attacking randomly. Bakugo shouted. What? It's targeting the generators. Izuku pointed toward the remaining machines. If it destroys them, the trial will collapse completely. Todoroki understood. Then we protect them. Izuku nodded. Exactly. He launched himself forward. Boom. Blackwhip grabbed 3 tendrils at once. Izuku pulled them away from a generator. Now, Iida rushed past him. Understood. He reached the generator and began repairing it. Another tendril attacked. Bakugo intercepted it. Boom. Keep working. The generator sparked. Click. One section activated. The entity roared. Roar. Izuku looked upward. It's losing control. The entity's shadow grew larger. Then I shall remove the source. A massive tendril formed above Izuku. He looked at it. Me. The tendril descended. Boom. Izuku caught it with both hands. The ground beneath his feet cracked. Crack. Not this time. Green lightning exploded across his body. One for all surged through him. He pulled the tendril downward. The entity's attack was redirected into the ground. Boom. The forest shook. Bakugo stared. He's getting stronger. Todoroki nodded. And the corruption is disappearing. Izuku looked at his Blackwhip. The dark energy continued fading. Only a thin layer remained. I think I know why. Ochako approached. Why? The entity feeds on fear and despair. Izuku looked toward the others. If I stop being afraid of it, it loses its hold on me. Bakugo smirked. Then let's make it starve. Izuku smiled. Yeah. The final generator activated. Click. The entire realm went silent. The exit gate appeared in the distance. Its lights flickered through the fog. Class 1A stared. The exit. Mina shouted. But Izuku didn't move. He looked at the entity. The massive shadow was retreating. But it wasn't defeated. It was angry. You may have reclaimed your mind. The entity's voice echoed. But your body still belongs to me. Izuku looked at his corrupted Blackwhip. Then at his classmates. We'll see about that. The exit gate began opening. Behind them, the fog started closing in. The entity had lost control of Izuku's mind. Now it would try something else. It would attack his body directly. The fog had changed. Izuku could feel it as soon as the trial began. The corruption covering his body was weaker than before. Green lightning occasionally passed through the dark tendrils of Blackwhip, forcing the entity's influence to retreat. Class 1A was scattered across the forest. 3 generators remained. Izuku stood on top of a ruined building and watched the survivors move through the fog. Hunt. The command appeared in his mind. Izuku looked at the nearest survivor. Then he deliberately turned away. Not this time. He jumped from the building. Boom. He landed near a generator. Ochako was repairing it. She immediately looked up. Midoriya. Izuku raised one finger to his lips. Quiet. She stared at him. What are you doing? Helping. Izuku looked around. The entity is watching through the fog. I can't make it obvious. Ochako nodded slowly. Izuku examined the generator. The left side is damaged. Momo approached from behind a tree. Can you repair it? Yes. Izuku pointed toward the mechanism. But don't activate it yet. Momo looked confused. Why? There's a killer nearby. His danger sense activated. Izuku immediately turned. 3 o'clock. Momo and Ochako moved away. A shadow passed between the trees. Izuku stepped forward. Blackwhip spread across the ground. Come on. The other killer entered the clearing. Izuku attacked first. Boom. He launched forward and struck the ground. The killer dodged. Izuku followed with Blackwhip. Whoosh. The tendril smashed into a tree. Crack. The other killer charged. Izuku blocked the attack. The impact pushed him backward. He deliberately stumbled. The entity immediately reacted. Pursue. Izuku understood. It wanted him to chase. Instead, he ran in the opposite direction. The killer followed. Izuku led it away from the generator. Once they were far enough away, he stopped. Blackwhip wrapped around the killer's weapon. Stay here. He pulled the weapon away and threw it into the fog. The killer stared at him. Izuku turned his back. He didn't attack. The killer eventually disappeared. Izuku waited several seconds. Then he returned to the generator. Now, Momo activated it. Click. The generator came to life. One more. The entity watched. Something was wrong. Its killer wasn't hunting. He was protecting them. Black roots began crawling toward Izuku. Izuku noticed them immediately. It's figured it out. Ochako looked worried. What do we do? Keep repairing. But I'll handle it. Izuku stepped toward the incoming roots. Blackwhip extended from his arms. The corruption tried to spread across his body. Izuku resisted. Green lightning surged. Crack. One root snapped. Another came from behind. Izuku caught it. Not today. Boom. He slammed it into the ground. The forest shook. The final generator was farther away. Iida and Todoroki were repairing it. Izuku reached them. Almost done. Iida nodded. Yes. Todoroki looked toward the fog. Something is approaching. Izuku's danger sense screamed. Move. The entity's tendrils descended. Crack. The generator was destroyed. Iida stumbled backward. The generator. Izuku looked at the broken machine. We still have time. Todoroki raised an eyebrow. How? Izuku pointed toward another structure. There's a second generator. Iida immediately understood. Then we'll use it. The three ran. The entity followed. Izuku reached the second generator first. He looked at the others. Repair it. Iida started working. Todoroki created an ice barrier. The entity's roots smashed through it. Boom. Izuku stepped forward. Keep working. Blackwhip exploded from his arms. Dozens of tendrils collided with the incoming roots. Crack. Izuku pushed forward. His corrupted costume began tearing apart. Green energy covered his body. The entity whispered inside his mind. You betray me. Izuku gritted his teeth. I never belonged to you. The entity increased its pressure. Pain shot through his body. Izuku almost fell. Todoroki shouted. Midoriya. Keep working. Izuku stood again. Don't stop. Iida repaired the final component. Click. The generator activated. The exit gates powered up. The fog suddenly became silent. Izuku looked toward the distant gate. It's open. Ochako, Bakugo, and the others gathered. Bakugo looked at Izuku. You're coming too. Izuku shook his head. I can't. What? The entity won't let me leave. Bakugo stepped forward. Then we'll break it. Izuku looked at the black roots around his arms. Not yet. He pointed toward the exit. You all go first. Ochako shook her head. No, Ochako. We're not leaving you. Izuku smiled faintly. I'll catch up. Bakugo narrowed his eyes. That's a lie. Izuku didn't answer. Bakugo grabbed his shoulder. You're coming with us. Izuku looked at him. For a moment, the fog disappeared from his vision. He saw you. His classmates. His mother. His old life. Then the entity's voice returned. You are mine. Izuku's expression hardened. We'll see. He turned toward the exit. Run. Class 1A moved. One by one, they headed toward the gate. Izuku stayed behind. The entity's roots surrounded him. But he didn't attack. Instead, he looked at the exit. They're safe. A faint smile appeared. That's enough. Then the fog closed around him. The gate remained open, and Izuku stood alone between his friends and the entity, pretending to be the killer the realm expected him to be. The rebellion had begun. The exit gate disappeared. Izuku stood alone in the forest. The last trace of Class 1A's presence vanished into the fog, leaving him surrounded by silence. He lowered his head. They made it. Blackwhip slowly moved around his arms. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the entire realm shook. Boom. Trees were torn from the ground. The sky turned completely black. Izuku looked upward. You really are angry. The entity's voice echoed everywhere. You deceived me. Izuku raised his head. I protected them. You were created to hunt. I'm not your weapon. The fog suddenly rushed toward him. Izuku raised Blackwhip. Crack. The tendrils collided. The impact sent him sliding across the ground. He immediately recovered. Green lightning flashed around his body. If you want me to obey. He raised his fists. You'll have to force me. The entity attacked. Massive black roots erupted from every direction. Izuku accelerated. Boom. He disappeared between the trees. Blackwhip wrapped around a branch. He swung over the first wave. Another tendril appeared above him. Izuku twisted in midair. Crack. It barely missed his head. He landed and immediately jumped again. The entire forest became a battlefield. The entity wasn't sending another killer. It was attacking personally. Izuku realized why. You're afraid. The fog stopped for a moment. Izuku smiled. You are. The entity's voice became louder. Silence. Hundreds of tendrils descended. Izuku crossed his arms. Smash. Boom. One for all exploded outward. The roots were thrown away. Izuku landed heavily. His corrupted costume was tearing apart. Green energy now covered most of his body. But the entity wasn't finished. Black chains appeared around his wrists. Izuku's eyes widened. Again, the chains pulled him backward. He crashed into a tree. Boom. Another chain wrapped around his leg. Then another around his chest. Izuku struggled. Let go. The entity pulled harder. Pain spread through his body. Izuku gritted his teeth. I said. Blackwhip erupted. Let go. Crack. The chains broke. Izuku fell to the ground. He immediately stood. The entity changed the realm. The forest disappeared. Izuku found himself standing in U.A. The school was empty. The halls were dark. His footsteps echoed. Another illusion. The entity spoke. This is what you lost. Izuku continued walking. He saw his classroom. The door opened by itself. Inside, his classmates were sitting at their desks. They all looked at him. But their faces were expressionless. Why did you leave us? Izuku stopped. You know why. You abandoned us. No. You became a killer. Izuku clenched his fists. Because you forced me. The illusion of Bakugo stood. Then why didn't you fight harder? Izuku's eyes narrowed. The illusion continued. You always needed someone else to save you. Izuku remained silent. Then he smiled. You're not him. The illusion froze. What? Bakugo would never say that. The illusion began cracking. Crack. Izuku walked forward. You're just using my memories. The entire school began collapsing. Boom. Izuku raised his arm. Blackwhip wrapped around the walls. And I'm done playing. He pulled. The illusion shattered. Izuku returned to the forest. The entity's presence was weaker. But the attack continued. A massive claw formed in the sky. Izuku looked up. You really don't give up. The claw descended. Boom. Izuku jumped. He launched himself directly toward it. One for all surged through his body. Blackwhip wrapped around the massive limb. Izuku pulled with everything he had. Come down. The claw slammed into the ground. Crack. Izuku landed on top of it. Green lightning spread across his body. You wanted a killer. He raised his fist. But you made a hero angry. Boom. His punch shattered the manifestation. The fog exploded outward. For several seconds, the realm was silent. Izuku stood in the middle of the ruined forest. His corrupted Blackwhip had changed. The dark coating was now only a thin layer. Green energy pulsed through it. Then the entity spoke. This changes nothing. Izuku looked upward. It changes everything. You remain here. Then I'll keep fighting. You will suffer. Izuku tightened his fists. I've survived worse. The fog began closing around him again. But this time, Izuku didn't retreat. He walked forward. The entity had expected fear. Instead, it found resistance. And somewhere beyond the fog, the exit gate began flickering back into existence. Izuku noticed it. A small smile appeared. So that's your weakness. The entity went silent. Izuku continued walking toward the gate. You can't control everything. The fog trembled. Izuku raised his Blackwhip. And now I'm going to find out what else you can't control. The fog was quieter than usual. Izuku walked through the ruined forest, following the faint glow of the exit gate. He had discovered something important. The entity controlled the realm, but it didn't control everything. The generators, the gates, the hooks, the fog itself. They all followed rules, and rules could be exploited. Izuku stopped beside a broken generator. If the entity has to follow the rules of the trial, he crouched down and examined the machine. Then it has limits. A familiar voice came from behind him. Midoriya. Izuku turned. Ochako stepped out of the fog. Behind her were Iida, Todoroki, Hiroshima, Momo, Tsuyu, and the rest of Class 1A. Izuku's eyes widened. You came back. Bakugo stepped forward. Of course we did. Izuku looked toward the exit gate. I told you to leave. And we ignored you. Bakugo crossed his arms. You're welcome. Izuku sighed. You really don't listen. Neither do you. Momo approached the generator. What have you discovered? Izuku pointed toward the machine. The entity can create trials, but it still needs the generators and exit gates to function. Iida adjusted his glasses, meaning the system has fixed conditions. Exactly. Todoroki looked around. Then we can use those conditions against it. Izuku nodded. There are more rules. He pointed toward the hooks. The entity needs those for sacrifices. Then he pointed toward the fog. It also can't completely erase the survivors without restarting the trial. Momo's eyes widened. So the trials themselves are restricting its power. Yes. Izuku pulled out a piece of broken metal. If we interfere with the sequence, we can force the realm to malfunction. Bakugo grinned. Now that's something I understand. The fog suddenly moved. Izuku's danger sense activated. Someone's coming. Everyone prepared themselves. Several silhouettes emerged. Survivors from other trials. They looked confused when they saw Class 1A. One of them raised a weapon. Izuku stepped forward. Wait. The survivor stared at him. You're the killer. Izuku nodded. I was. The survivor hesitated. And now. Izuku looked at his Blackwhip. Now I'm trying to get everyone out. Silence followed. Then one survivor lowered their weapon. Another did the same. Izuku looked at Class 1A. We need everyone. The plan was simple. Repair the generators. Avoid the hooks. Keep the entity distracted. Then activate the exit gates simultaneously. Izuku divided everyone into groups. Todoroki. Iida, stay on the western generator. Understood. Momo. Hiroshima, take the northern one. They nodded. Ochako. Tsuyu, stay near the central area. Ochako smiled. And you? Izuku looked toward the fog. I'll make sure the entity follows me. Bakugo immediately stepped forward. I'm coming with you. Izuku shook his head. No. Yes. Bakugo. You need someone watching your back. Izuku stared at him. Then sighed. Fine. The generators started. Click, click, click. The entity noticed. The fog became darker. Trial interference detected. Izuku smiled. It noticed. Bakugo raised his palms. Good. A massive roar echoed. Roar. Black tendrils erupted from the ground. Izuku launched forward. Boom. Blackwhip caught the first wave. Bakugo blasted another apart. Boom. Keep moving. Izuku shouted. The two ran through the forest. The entity followed them. It's working. Izuku looked back. The generators continued operating. Don't let it reach the others. A killer emerged from the fog. Izuku immediately recognized the threat. Another one. Bakugo grinned. Finally. He fired an explosion. Boom. The killer dodged. Izuku moved around the opposite side. Blackwhip wrapped around the killer's weapon. We don't need to defeat them. Bakugo frowned. Then what? Just keep them away. Izuku pulled the killer toward him. Bakugo blasted the ground. Boom. The killer was forced backward. They continued moving. The killer followed. Exactly as Izuku intended. The final generator activated. Click. The exit gates powered up. The fog began screaming. The entity had lost control of the sequence. Izuku looked toward the gates. Now, Class 1A moved. The survivors followed. The gates began opening. Then the entity manifested above the forest. A gigantic red eye appeared in the sky. Everyone stopped. Izuku looked upward. It doesn't want us leaving. Todoroki raised an ice wall. Then we'll force it. The entity attacked. Hundreds of tendrils descended. Izuku stepped forward. Green lightning covered his body. Everyone keep going. Bakugo stood beside him. We'll hold it. Izuku nodded. Ready. Bakugo grinned. Always. Boom. The two launched forward. Blackwhip tore through the tendrils. Bakugo's explosions illuminated the fog. Crack. The entity screamed. Roar. The exit gates opened completely. Now, Iida shouted. The survivors began escaping. One by one, they crossed the threshold. Izuku continued fighting. His corrupted costume was falling apart. The black coating on Blackwhip disappeared further. Green energy now dominated the tendrils. The entity struck him. Boom. Izuku crashed through several trees. Midoriya. Ochako shouted. He stood again. Keep going. Bakugo grabbed his arm. We're leaving together. Izuku looked at him. Then at the open gate. For the first time, it looked possible. They ran. The fog chased them. The entity screamed behind them. But Izuku didn't look back. He crossed the threshold, and the moment he stepped through, the entire realm shook. The survivors were no longer scattered individuals. They were a group, and Izuku was no longer the entity's killer. He was their guide. The escape failed. The moment Izuku stepped through the exit gate, the world around him twisted. The light disappeared. The forest returned. Class 1A stumbled onto the ground one after another. Bakugo immediately looked around. Damn it. Izuku stood silently. We're still here. Todoroki looked at the gate. It had vanished. The entity closed it. Izuku nodded. It wasn't an exit. Momo frowned. Then what was it? A trap. The fog became unnaturally quiet. Izuku's danger sense suddenly screamed. Everyone, get down. Boom. A massive weapon crashed into the ground. The survivors scattered. Izuku raised Blackwhip. Several figures emerged from the fog. Killers. Dozens of them. Some carried axes. Others carried blades, chains, or strange weapons. They surrounded the group. Bakugo stared. That's a lot. Izuku's expression hardened. The entity sent all of them. A voice echoed through the fog. Traitor. Izuku looked upward. Eliminate the failed killer. The killers advanced. The first attacker rushed forward. Izuku intercepted them. Boom. His fist struck the ground. The shockwave pushed the attacker backward. Another killer attacked from behind. Blackwhip caught the weapon. Crack. Izuku pulled. The killer stumbled. Bakugo blasted them away. Boom. Don't get surrounded. I know. Todoroki raised a wall of ice. Several killers crashed into it. Crack. The wall shattered. Hiroshima hardened himself and charged. Let's go. Boom. He collided with another killer. Iida rushed through the opening. Everyone, maintain formation. The survivors followed his instructions. For several moments, Class 1A and the other survivors managed to hold their position. But more killers kept appearing. Izuku looked around. We can't keep fighting them. Bakugo nodded. Then what's the plan? Izuku's eyes moved across the battlefield. We don't defeat them. He pointed toward the fog. We break the trial. Izuku remembered the rules. Generators. Hooks. Exit gates. Sacrifices. The entity needed all of them. Momo. Yes. How many hooks can you see? She looked around. At least 20. Destroy the nearest ones. Momo understood. Everyone. Target the hooks. Class 1A moved. Todoroki froze one. Crack. Hiroshima smashed another. Boom. Bakugo destroyed a third. The survivors followed. One hook after another collapsed. The killers became increasingly aggressive. Izuku fought through them. Blackwhip stretched across the battlefield. Keep destroying them. Another hook fell. Then another. The fog began shaking. The entity screamed. Roar. Izuku smiled. It's working. The entity descended. A gigantic black shape emerged from the sky. The remaining killers stopped. Even they seemed afraid. Izuku looked upward. So you finally came down. The entity's voice shook the entire forest. You were given everything. Izuku clenched his fists. You took everything. You belong to me. No. Green lightning surged through his body. I belong to myself. The entity attacked. A massive tendril slammed toward him. Boom. Izuku blocked it with Blackwhip. His feet slid backward. Crack. The ground broke beneath him. Bakugo appeared beside him. Need help? Izuku grinned. Always. Bakugo fired an explosion. Boom. Todoroki followed with ice and fire. Boom. The other students joined. The combined attack pushed the entity backward. For the first time, it lost control of the battlefield. The remaining hooks collapsed. The fog turned white. The entity screamed. Trial failure. Izuku looked at the notification. Trial failure. Momo stared. That's new. Izuku nodded. The system itself is rejecting the trial. The entity suddenly withdrew. The killers vanished with it. Silence returned. Class 1A stood together. The survivors gathered around them. Bakugo looked at Izuku. Did we win? Izuku looked toward the fog. Not yet. Why? Because it knows we're trying to break its system. The ground began shaking again. Far away, something enormous moved inside the fog. Izuku's expression became serious. And now it'll stop sending killers. Todoroki looked at him. Then what will it send? Izuku stared into the darkness. Itself. The fog swallowed the forest. And somewhere beyond it, the entity began preparing for war. The fog had become completely silent. Izuku stood in the middle of the ruined forest with Class 1A and the remaining survivors behind him. The entity had disappeared, but everyone knew it was still watching. Izuku looked around the battlefield. Broken generators. Collapsed hooks. Endless fog. Then he noticed something strange. Thin red lines were connecting the hooks to the ground. Wait. Momo stepped closer. What is it? Izuku crouched beside one of the broken hooks. These aren't just connected to the entity. He touched the ground. Green lightning flickered across his fingers. They're connected to the entire realm. Todoroki understood. The hooks are acting like anchors. Izuku nodded. Exactly. Bakugo looked toward the forest. So if we destroy them all, the entity loses its connection to this part of the realm. And then, Izuku looked toward the sky. We attack the connection directly. Izuku gathered everyone around a broken generator. The entity's power is spread throughout the realm. He pointed toward the ground. The hooks act as anchors. The generators stabilize the trials. The exit gates create temporary dimensional openings. Iida nodded. Then we can disrupt all three. Yes. Momo looked concerned. But what happens if we destroy the anchors? Izuku paused. The realm may collapse. Silence followed. Ochako stared at him. And what happens to you? Izuku didn't answer immediately. Bakugo stepped forward. Deku. Izuku finally looked at him. I'm connected to the entity. Bakugo's expression hardened. So, if the realm collapses, Izuku looked at his Blackwhip. I might be pulled down with it. Ochako shook her head. Then we find another way. Izuku smiled faintly. There might not be one. Bakugo grabbed his collar. Don't even think about sacrificing yourself. Izuku stared at him. Someone has to stay behind. Then we'll all stay. Bakugo. Shut up. Bakugo released him. We're doing this together. The plan began. Class 1A split into groups. Todoroki and Iida moved toward the western hooks. Momo, Hiroshima, and several survivors headed north. Ochako and Tsuyu went toward the eastern side. Bakugo stayed with Izuku. Why am I with you? Izuku looked at him. Because you're the only one stubborn enough to keep me from doing something stupid. Bakugo grinned. Damn right. They moved toward the center of the realm. A massive black structure stood there. Izuku stopped. That's it. Bakugo stared. What? The core. Beneath the structure was a glowing mass of black energy. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Boom. 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 Izuku's danger sense screamed. That's where the entity's connection is strongest. Bakugo raised his hands. Then let's destroy it. Izuku shook his head. Not yet. Why? The anchors have to go first. One by one, the hooks began disappearing. Crack. Another collapsed. Boom. Another shattered. The fog became unstable. The entity finally reacted. Its voice echoed across the realm. Stop. Izuku smiled. We're getting close. The sky turned red. Massive tendrils emerged. The survivors screamed. Everyone move. Izuku launched himself forward. Boom. Blackwhip stretched across the battlefield. He caught several tendrils at once. Keep destroying the hooks. Bakugo blasted another. Boom. That's one. Todoroki froze another. Crack. Two. Hiroshima smashed a third. Boom. The entity's voice became louder. You will not escape. Izuku pulled another tendril away. We're not escaping. He looked toward the black core. We're coming for you. The final anchor remained. It stood directly beside the core. Izuku approached it. The entity manifested above him. A gigantic shadow filled the sky. Izuku Midoriya. Izuku looked up. You know my name. I know everything about you. The entity's voice became softer. Your fears. Izuku remained silent. Your regrets. His fists tightened. Your desire to save everyone. Izuku's eyes narrowed. Don't use that against me. You cannot save them all. The entity attacked. Izuku activated One for All. Green lightning exploded around him. Boom. He launched upward. Blackwhip wrapped around the final anchor. The entity tried to pull him away. Izuku screamed. Not this time. Bakugo appeared below. Deku. Do it. Bakugo understood. He raised both hands. Gladly. Boom. A massive explosion struck the anchor. Izuku pulled with Blackwhip. Crack. The anchor shattered. The entire realm shook. The core became exposed. Izuku fell to the ground. He looked toward the others. Now, the remaining survivors moved toward the exit. Class 1A followed. Bakugo stayed beside Izuku. And you. Izuku stared at the core. I'm going in. Bakugo grabbed his shoulder. Alone. Izuku nodded. The entity is connected to me. He looked at the glowing black energy. If I destroy the core from inside, the connection should break. Bakugo shook his head. And you. Izuku smiled. I don't know. That's not good enough. Izuku looked at him. Bakugo. What? Thank you. Bakugo's expression changed. Don't say that like you're dying. Izuku turned toward the core. I'll see you on the other side. Deku. Izuku jumped. Boom. Green lightning surrounded his body. He plunged directly into the black core. The realm exploded with light. And for the first time, the entity screamed in fear. Izuku fell through darkness. There was no ground beneath him. No sky. No fog. Only an endless black space filled with countless red threads. Each thread stretched toward a distant point. Izuku stared at them. The hooks. They weren't physical anymore. They were connections. Every sacrifice. Every trial. Every survivor. Every killer. All of them were connected to the entity through those threads. The entity's voice echoed around him. You should have remained obedient. Izuku looked forward. I'm done obeying. Green lightning flickered around his body. The corrupted Blackwhip extended from his arms. The dark energy covering it began breaking apart. Crack. Izuku pulled one of the red threads. The entire realm shook. Boom. The entity screamed. Release it. Izuku tightened his grip. No. He pulled harder. The thread snapped. Crack. Somewhere outside, a hook collapsed. Class 1A felt the impact. Todoroki looked toward the sky. Another one fell. Momo nodded. Midoriya is doing it. Bakugo stared into the darkness. Come on, Deku. Another shockwave passed through the forest. Boom. The remaining hooks began shaking. The survivors moved from one hook to another, destroying them as quickly as possible. Hiroshima smashed one apart. Crack. Ochako used her quirk to lift another. Todoroki froze it. Crack. Iida kicked the remains away. The fog became thinner. It's working, Ochako shouted. But then the entity attacked. Black tendrils erupted from the ground. Everyone, move. The survivors scattered. Bakugo fired an explosion. Boom. Todoroki created an ice wall. Crack. The tendrils smashed through it. There are too many. Momo pointed toward the remaining hooks. We have to destroy them all. Bakugo grinned. Then stop talking and break them. Inside the core, Izuku continued pulling the threads. His arms were shaking. Blood ran from his nose. But he didn't stop. 1. He pulled. Crack. 2. Another thread snapped. Boom. 3. The entity appeared behind him. A gigantic shadow surrounded Izuku. You cannot destroy what sustains this realm. Izuku turned. Then I'll destroy the part connected to me. The entity attacked. Izuku raised Blackwhip. The tendrils collided. Crack. The impact sent him flying. He recovered in midair. Smash. Boom. One for all blasted through the darkness. The entity recoiled. Izuku rushed forward. Blackwhip wrapped around another red thread. The entity grabbed his body. You belong to me. Izuku struggled. Not anymore. Green lightning surged through him. I choose where I go. Boom. The entity's grip broke. Izuku pulled. Crack. Another connection snapped. Outside, the final hooks began collapsing. 1, 2, 3. The fog turned white. The exit gates appeared. Iida stared. The gates are opening. Ochako looked toward the center of the realm. What about Midoriya? Bakugo clenched his fists. He's still inside. The entity suddenly manifested above the survivors. Its massive shadow blocked the sky. You will not take him. Bakugo raised his palms. Then come and stop us. Boom. The battle resumed. Inside the core, Izuku reached the final connection. It was different from the others. It was enormous, thick, and connected directly to his chest. Izuku stared at it. So that's the leash. The entity appeared before him. Break it, and you will disappear. Izuku's expression hardened. Maybe. You will lose everything. I've already lost enough. The entity moved closer. You cannot survive without me. Izuku raised his hand. Green lightning covered his fingers. I survived you. He grabbed the connection. The entity screamed. No. Izuku pulled. Nothing happened. He pulled harder. His muscles strained. Blackwhip wrapped around the connection. Come on. The entity attacked from every direction. Izuku's body was covered in dark energy. I won't. Crack. The connection began breaking. Let you. Crack. More fractures appeared. Control me. Boom. The entire core exploded with green light. The final connection shattered. For 1 second, everything stopped. Izuku felt the entity's presence disappear from his mind. He fell. His corrupted Blackwhip turned green. The dark energy vanished. Izuku smiled. It's gone. Then the core began collapsing. Izuku's eyes widened. Oh. He looked toward the distant light. That's probably bad. Boom. The entire realm began breaking apart. and Izuku was swallowed by the collapsing fog. The fog was collapsing. Trees floated upside down. Broken hooks vanished into the darkness. The sky cracked like glass. Crack. Izuku fell through the collapsing realm. He tried to activate Blackwhip. Nothing happened. Come on. His body continued falling. Then a massive hand emerged from the darkness. It grabbed him. Boom. Izuku was slammed against an invisible surface. He struggled. Let me go. The entity appeared directly in front of him. This time, it wasn't a distant voice. It had manifested completely. A gigantic mass of black energy filled the sky, covered with countless glowing eyes. Izuku stared at it. So this is your real form. The entity's voice shook the realm. You broke my chains. Izuku raised his head. And I'll break the rest. The entity pulled him closer. You believe yourself free. Green lightning appeared around Izuku. I am. The entity tightened its grip. Then prove it. One for all exploded. Boom. Izuku broke free and launched himself into the darkness. Blackwhip extended from both arms. This time, the tendrils were no longer corrupted. They glowed with green energy. Izuku swung around the entity's massive form. Smash. Boom. His fist struck the entity. The impact shook the entire realm. The entity barely moved. Izuku landed. That did nothing. The entity attacked. Hundreds of tendrils rushed toward him. Izuku dodged the first. Then the second. Then the third. Boom. One struck his side. He was sent flying. He crashed through several floating pieces of terrain. Crack. Izuku recovered. Okay. He wiped blood from his mouth. So brute force isn't enough. The entity attacked again. Izuku activated danger sense. He saw the attacks before they came. Blackwhip caught several tendrils. Fa Jin charged through his muscles. Green lightning covered his body. Let's try this. He accelerated. Boom. Izuku moved around the entity at incredible speed. Blackwhip wrapped around several points on its body. He pulled them together. Detroit smash. Boom. The entity's outer shell cracked. For the first time, it showed damage. The entity screamed. Roar. Izuku landed. Got you. The entity changed shape. The entire realm transformed around Izuku. He suddenly stood in a massive arena. Above him floated thousands of hooks. Each one represented a soul trapped inside the realm. Izuku looked around. You're using them as shields. They are mine. Izuku shook his head. They aren't. The entity attacked through the hooks. Izuku refused to strike them. Instead, he moved between them. Blackwhip grabbed each hook and redirected it. One after another, the hooks were pulled away from the entity. The entity became furious. Stop. Izuku shouted. These people aren't your property. Boom. He slammed one hook into another. Crack. Both disappeared. The entity's body weakened. Izuku understood. Every soul you lose makes you weaker. The entity went silent. Izuku smiled. Then I'll free them all. Outside the core, Class 1A watched the collapsing realm. Bakugo saw a green light in the distance. There. Ochako looked up. Midoriya. A massive shockwave passed through the forest. Boom. The survivors were thrown backward. Todoroki created an ice barrier. Something is fighting. Bakugo stared into the light. That's Deku. Inside the realm, Izuku was barely standing. His body was exhausted. One for all flickered around him. The entity remained enormous. You cannot win. Izuku breathed heavily. Maybe. He looked at the remaining hooks. But I don't have to. The entity paused. Izuku raised his hand. Blackwhip stretched across the arena. It connected to every remaining hook. The entity realized what he was doing. No. Izuku pulled. Everyone. Class 1A heard his voice through the fog. Bakugo looked around. Deku. Izuku shouted. Destroy the hooks. Everyone moved. Todoroki froze one. Crack. Bakugo blasted another. Boom. Hiroshima smashed one. Crack. Ochako lifted another into the air. Momo and the survivors destroyed the remaining hooks. One after another, the connections disappeared. The entity screamed. Roar. Its massive body began breaking apart. Izuku pulled the final connection. You're done. The entity lunged toward him. Izuku raised his fist. One for all reached its maximum output. Green lightning filled the realm. One for all. He pulled his arm backward. Smash. Boom. The punch struck the entity directly. The realm exploded with light. Silence. Izuku floated in darkness. He couldn't feel the entity anymore. He couldn't feel the fog. He couldn't even feel the ground. Then a familiar voice reached him. Midoriya. Izuku opened his eyes. Bakugo was standing several meters away. Ochako was beside him. Todoroki. Iida. The rest of Class 1A. They were all there. Izuku smiled. You came back. Bakugo grabbed him by the arm. Idiot. Izuku laughed weakly. Yeah. Behind them, the realm continued collapsing. A bright opening appeared. Todoroki looked toward it. That might be our way out. Izuku stared at the portal. Then looked back at the collapsing fog. Then let's go. The group ran toward the light. Behind them, the last remains of the entity's realm shattered. And for the first time since Izuku had been dragged into the fog, there was no voice commanding him to hunt. The light grew brighter. Izuku ran with the others as the collapsing realm shook around them. Crack. The ground behind them split apart. Keep moving. Iida shouted. Everyone rushed toward the glowing portal. The survivors followed close behind. Izuku stayed at the rear. Blackwhip stretched behind him, catching pieces of falling debris and throwing them aside. Boom. A massive rock crashed into the ground. Faster. Bakugo glanced back. Deku. Get over here. I'm making sure everyone gets through. You always do that. Izuku smiled. Then let me do it one more time. The portal began shrinking. Momo noticed first. The opening is closing. Todoroki looked toward Izuku. Midoriya. Izuku immediately accelerated. Green lightning flashed around his body. He grabbed several survivors with Blackwhip and pulled them toward the portal. Move. One survivor crossed. Then another. Then another. The opening became smaller. Bakugo waited near the edge. Come on. Izuku saw one final survivor trapped beneath fallen debris. He stopped. Midoriya. Ochako shouted. Izuku rushed toward them. Boom. He lifted the debris. Run. The survivor escaped. Izuku turned toward the portal. It was almost gone. Damn it. He sprinted. The entity's remaining energy suddenly appeared behind him. A giant black tendril shot toward Izuku. Crack. It wrapped around his leg. Izuku fell. Deku. Bakugo jumped back into the collapsing realm. Bakugo. No. Bakugo grabbed Izuku's arm. I'm not leaving you here. Izuku pulled against the tendril. Get to the portal. Shut up. Bakugo raised both hands. Die. Boom. The explosion destroyed the tendril. Izuku and Bakugo flew forward. Todoroki created an ice path beneath them. Now, Izuku grabbed Bakugo. Blackwhip extended toward the portal. They were pulled forward. The portal was only a few meters wide. Class 1A had already crossed. Ochako reached out. Midoriya. Izuku pushed Bakugo forward. You first. Bakugo grabbed his arm. We're going together. The portal continued shrinking. Crack. The realm collapsed behind them. Izuku activated One for All. Green lightning covered his body. Come on. He pulled himself forward. Bakugo pulled harder. The two crossed the portal together. Boom. The portal disappeared. Silence followed. Izuku landed on solid ground. He rolled across the pavement. For several seconds, he didn't move. Then he heard voices. Midoriya. Izuku opened his eyes. The sky was blue. Real sunlight touched his face. There was no fog, no hooks, no screams. No entity. He slowly sat up. We're. His voice trembled. Home. Ochako immediately hugged him. You're back. Izuku froze. Then he smiled. Yeah. Todoroki looked around. This is Japan. Iida pointed toward the nearby buildings. We returned to our world. The survivors who had escaped with them looked around in disbelief. Some began crying. Others simply stood beneath the sunlight. After everything they had endured, none of them expected to see daylight again. Bakugo stood a short distance away. He looked at Izuku. The two stared at each other. Finally, Bakugo walked closer. You look terrible. Izuku laughed. You don't look much better. Bakugo snorted. Then he became serious. You're really here. Izuku nodded. I am. Bakugo looked at the green energy still flickering around Izuku's body. What happened to your Blackwhip? Izuku looked at his arm. The tendrils were no longer black. They were green. Clean. The corruption is gone. He moved his fingers. Blackwhip responded normally. It feels like before. A small smile appeared on his face. Maybe even stronger. Suddenly, sirens could be heard in the distance. Pro-heroes arrived moments later. All Might was among them. The moment he saw Izuku, his eyes widened. Young Midoriya. Izuku stood. All Might rushed forward and grabbed his shoulders. You're alive. Izuku smiled. I'm sorry for worrying everyone. All Might's expression became emotional. You have nothing to apologize for. Aizawa arrived behind him. He stared at Izuku for several seconds. Then he sighed. You've been through hell. Izuku lowered his head. Yeah. Aizawa placed a hand on his shoulder. Welcome back. The survivors were taken into protective custody. Their stories were impossible to explain. A world hidden inside supernatural fog. Killers. Endless trials. Hooks. The entity. But there was proof. The scars. The strange energy. The damaged equipment. And the portal residue. Izuku watched from a distance as the survivors were escorted away. Some waved at him. He waved back. They had survived together. They had escaped together. And now they finally had a chance to live normally. Later that evening, Izuku stood on the roof of U.A. The city lights stretched across the horizon. Bakugo stood beside him. So, Izuku looked over. What are you going to do now? Izuku looked at his hands. I don't know. For the first time, he didn't have to run. He didn't have to hunt. He didn't have to listen to the entity. He was simply Izuku Midoriya. Bakugo looked toward the sky. Then figure it out. Izuku smiled. I will. Far above them, a tiny patch of black fog appeared. Izuku immediately noticed it. His smile disappeared. Bakugo noticed too. Don't tell me. The fog vanished. Izuku remained silent. Perhaps the entity was truly gone. Perhaps some fragment had survived. But he no longer felt its voice inside his head. He looked toward the city. Then toward the people living peacefully below. Whatever comes next. Green lightning flickered around his fingers. I'll face it as a hero. And for the first time since the fog had taken him, Izuku walked away without looking back. 3 months had passed since Izuku Midoriya returned from the fog. U.A. had returned to normal. Classes continued. Hero training resumed. The survivors who had escaped with Izuku were slowly rebuilding their lives. But Izuku was different. His classmates noticed it. He smiled more often now. He laughed. He joined training exercises. Yet whenever someone mentioned the fog, he became quiet. Not because he was afraid. Because he remembered the people who had not escaped. One evening, Izuku stood alone on the U.A. rooftop. The sun was setting. Green lightning flickered faintly around his fingers. His Blackwhip moved gently behind him. It was completely green now. No dark energy. No blood. No corruption. Izuku looked at it. You really changed. Blackwhip moved as if responding to him. He smiled. Then a cold breeze passed through the rooftop. Izuku stopped. The temperature suddenly dropped. Fog appeared. Only a small amount, but he recognized it immediately. No, the fog spread across the rooftop. Izuku activated One for All. Green lightning covered his body. You shouldn't be here. A faint whisper came from the fog. Not the entity. Someone else. Help. Izuku's eyes widened. Another voice followed. Please. He immediately stepped forward. Who are you? The fog moved. Several silhouettes appeared inside it. Survivors. People he had never seen before. They were trapped somewhere beyond the remaining fragments of the realm. Izuku clenched his fists. There are still people inside. Bakugo arrived moments later. Deku. Izuku turned. Bakugo. Bakugo saw the fog. His expression immediately hardened. It's back. Not the entity. Izuku pointed toward the silhouettes. Survivors. Bakugo stared. You're not seriously thinking about going back? Izuku didn't answer. Bakugo stepped closer. You just escaped that hell. I know. You almost died. I know. You lost control of your quirk. I know. Bakugo grabbed his shoulder. Then why are you looking at that thing like you're about to jump in? Izuku looked into the fog. Because they're still there. Bakugo became silent. Izuku continued. We escaped because someone helped us. He looked at his Blackwhip. If someone else is trapped there, I can't pretend I don't know. Bakugo sighed. You're impossible. Izuku smiled. Are you coming? Bakugo raised his hands. Obviously. The next morning, Izuku stood before All Might and Aizawa. I want permission to investigate the remaining dimensional distortion. Aizawa stared at him. Absolutely not. Izuku expected that answer. Eraser head. You just returned from another dimension. Aizawa crossed his arms. You aren't going back alone. Izuku blinked. Then, Aizawa sighed. We'll investigate together. All Might smiled. Young Midoriya. A hero does not have to face danger alone. Izuku nodded. Thank you. The investigation lasted several weeks. They discovered that the entity had not been completely destroyed. Its main realm was gone. Its connection to Izuku was severed. But fragments remained scattered between dimensions. Small pockets of fog, broken trials, abandoned hooks, and trapped survivors. Izuku volunteered to enter every unstable pocket. Each time, he returned with someone. Sometimes one survivor, sometimes several, sometimes entire groups. He never became a killer again. Instead, the former killer became something else. A guide, a rescuer, a guardian. One night, Izuku entered another fog pocket. The forest was quiet. A survivor hid behind a ruined wall. Don't hurt me. Izuku lowered his arms. I'm not going to hurt you. The survivor stared at him. You're a killer. Izuku shook his head. Not anymore. Blackwhip extended gently. The survivor flinched. But the green tendril stopped several meters away. You can trust me. The survivor slowly stepped forward. Izuku smiled. Let's get you home. Years passed. The fog became weaker. Fewer survivors appeared. Eventually, the dimensional fractures almost disappeared completely. Izuku continued patrolling them. Whenever a fragment appeared, he entered. Whenever someone called for help, he answered. He became known among the survivors as the Guardian in the Fog. Not because he ruled the realm. Because he refused to abandon anyone inside it. One final night, Izuku stood before the last remaining portal. The fog was barely visible. Bakugo stood beside him. This should be the last one. Izuku nodded. Then let's finish it. They stepped through. On the other side was an empty forest. No hooks. No generators. No killers. No entity. Only a quiet field beneath a clear sky. Izuku looked around. It's over. Bakugo looked at him. Really? Izuku closed his eyes. For the first time, he felt nothing pulling at his mind. No command. No whispers. No fear. Nothing. He smiled. Really. The final portal began disappearing. Izuku looked back one last time. Goodbye. The fog vanished. Back in Japan, Izuku stood beneath the morning sun. His classmates were waiting for him. Ochako smiled. Todoroki nodded. Iida raised his hand. Hiroshima shouted something from behind them. Bakugo simply stood with his hands in his pockets. Izuku looked at all of them. He had been a victim. He had been a killer. He had been a prisoner. But none of those things defined him anymore. He was Izuku Midoriya, a hero. And whenever someone somewhere needed help, he would answer. Green lightning flickered around his hand. Blackwhip moved calmly behind him. Izuku smiled. Let's go. The group walked toward the city. Behind them, the last trace of fog disappeared forever.
Alright, now that we've gone through the entire story, let's move on to the key educational lessons and takeaways hidden within it. The purest light prevails over the darkest corruptions. Deku's tragedy in the fog teaches us that while hardship and toxic environments can temporarily twist our actions, our core values and moral compass can never be truly destroyed. Even in the deepest despair, holding on to hope, empathy, and self-sacrifice gives us the strength to break free from control and protect those who matter most. Maybe that's all for today's video. Like if you enjoyed it, and leave a comment if you have any title suggestions for the next video. Alright, that's it, and see you in the next video.